You ever feel like you're constantly chasing something, people's approval, validation, noise, drama, just to feel like you're doing something right? Let me hit you with the truth. Most of us are so focused on everything out there, what they said, what they're doing, how we're being perceived, that we completely lose sight of the one thing we can control, ourselves. Let me tell you something powerful, and you need to hear this. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop trying to keep up, and when you start turning all that energy inward, everything changes. Focus on yourself. Stay silent, not because you're weak, not because you're scared, but because you're finally changing you. And if you're ready to change your life, to really change it, not just talk about it, then buckle up. Because that change, we live in a world where everyone feels the need to speak up, react, explain, defend, like silence is uncomfortable. Like if you're not constantly broadcasting your thoughts, your opinions, your moves, you're irrelevant. But here's the truth that nobody talks about. Silence, it's a superpower. It's one of the strongest moves you can make. And most people don't know how to use it. We're conditioned to believe that power comes from volume, from being loud, from having the last word. That if you're quiet, you're weak. That if you don't respond, you've lost. But I want to challenge that. Because when you choose silence, not out of fear, but out of confidence, it's a game changer. It tells the world, I don't need to react to prove anything. I know who I am. That kind of silence, that's not weakness. That's discipline. That's control. That's you choosing not to waste your energy on nonsense. It's you understanding that not everything needs a reaction. Not every situation deserves your attention. Not every comment is worth your voice. And listen, I get it. You've probably been in situations where someone said something that lit a fire in you. You wanted to respond. You wanted to clap back. You wanted to prove your point. But let me ask you this. What did you actually gain from that? Did it fix anything? Or did it just drain your energy and pull you into a cycle of negativity? Because silence, when it comes from strength, is never about letting someone walk over you. It's about choosing your battles. It's about standing in your own power and knowing you don't owe anyone your peace just to win an argument. Silence says, I don't have time to shrink down to your level. I'm too focused on building something bigger. It's also about listening, really listening. When you're silent, you start to observe more. You hear what people are actually saying. You start to notice who supports you and who only cheers when it benefits them. You start to filter out the noise and tune into your own intuition. And that intuition, that inner voice, it gets louder when the outside world gets quieter. And silence is scary for people who don't understand it. It makes them uncomfortable. They want a reaction. They want you to fight back. Because your silence, it forces them to sit with themselves. It reflects their own chaos. That's power. That's presence. So the next time you feel the urge to explain yourself, to argue, to post that comment or send that angry text, pause. Ask yourself, is this reaction coming from my power or from my insecurity? 9 times out of 10, silence will serve you better than anything you could say, because it's not about proving your strength to them. It's about proving it to yourself. Silence gives you space, space to think, space to heal, space to grow. And growth doesn't happen when you're constantly defending yourself. It happens in stillness, in reflection, in choosing to focus on what actually matters. So if you're focusing on yourself right now, if you're in the middle of a comeback, a transformation, a healing journey, don't be afraid to get quiet. Don't be afraid to pull back, go inward, and let your silence speak for you. There's something most people don't realize until they're absolutely burnt out, drained, and wondering why everything feels heavy. Your energy is your most valuable resource. It's more valuable than your time, your money, or even your skills. Why? Because without energy, you can't show up for anything, not your goals, not your relationships, not yourself. And the wild part is, most of us give it away for free. We hand it out like it's unlimited. We spend it worrying about people who don't care. We waste it arguing with people who aren't listening. We burn it trying to impress people who aren't even paying attention. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, tired, anxious, like we've got nothing left for the things that actually matter. But here's what changes everything. When you realize that your energy belongs to you, it's not the world's to take. It's not something you owe to every situation that comes your way. You get to decide where it goes. You get to choose what gets your attention and what gets your silence. That's power. And that's how you start protecting your peace. Protecting your energy means boundaries. Real ones, not the kind you post about on Instagram and then ignore in real life. I'm talking about saying no without guilt. Walking away from drama. Letting people be upset with you and not needing to fix it. It means recognizing that some people thrive on draining others, and you don't have to play that game. You ever notice how some people just take? They show up with chaos, with negativity, with constant problems, and suddenly you're carrying their weight? Like it's your responsibility. But it's not. You're not a dumping ground for other people's emotional baggage. You're not a therapist for people who refuse to help themselves. You're allowed to protect your space. You're allowed to choose peace over participation. And let's talk about distractions, because they're energy thieves too. Every time you get pulled into scrolling, comparing, reacting, explaining, defending, you're leaking energy. That's energy you could be using to build your business, to improve your health, to create something meaningful, or just to rest and recharge. Not everything deserves your attention. Not every ping or notification is urgent. Most of it is noise. When you get serious about protecting your energy, you start to move differently. You start to evaluate people not by how fun or entertaining they are, but by how you feel after spending time with them, drained or empowered. And if it's drained, cut it off. You don't owe your energy to anyone who constantly depletes you. And let me be clear, this isn't about becoming selfish. It's about becoming responsible. Because when you take care of your energy, you become more present, more focused, more aligned. You show up better for your family, your purpose, your future. You stop living on fumes and start moving from a full tank. The truth is, you can't control everything in your life, but you can control how you respond. You can control what you allow into your world. You can control who gets access to your mind, your time, your space. That's not ego, that's self-respect. So stop apologizing for being unavailable to things that drain you. Stop shrinking to make others comfortable. Protecting your energy isn't about shutting people out. It's about preserving enough of yourself to grow, to heal, to rise. There comes a point in your life where you have to stop explaining yourself. Stop over-explaining your choices. Stop justifying your boundaries. Stop giving everyone a behind-the-scenes tour of your healing, your growth, your grind. Because the truth is, not everyone deserves access to your why. And the ones who really support you, they don't need it. We live in a world where oversharing has become the norm. Every move we make, we feel the need to post it, talk about it, defend it. Why? Because we're looking for approval. We want people to get it, to validate us, to say, yeah, I see you, keep going. But what happens when they don't? What happens when the people you expected to support you stay silent, or worse, start questioning you? That's when you have to decide, is your growth for them or is it for you? Because real growth, it's quiet, it's messy, it's uncomfortable, And it doesn't always make sense to people on the outside. You start pulling back, setting boundaries, changing your habits, and suddenly people want to know what's wrong. They want answers. They want to know why you're not showing up the same way you used to, why you're not responding like you did before, why you're more distant, more focused, more different. But here's what they don't understand. You're not becoming distant. You're becoming aligned. You're not being rude. You're being intentional. You're not acting too good. You're finally realizing what you deserve. And you don't have to explain that to anyone. When you're leveling up, people are going to project their own insecurities onto you. They're going to feel uncomfortable because your growth reminds them of everything they're not doing. And instead of working on themselves, they'll question you, criticize you, and try to pull you back into the version of you that made them comfortable. Don't go back. Don't shrink. Don't dilute your progress just so someone else feels safe. You don't owe the world a play-by-play of your transformation. You don't need to post every win or prove every decision. You can change, evolve, and grow without turning it into a performance. The most powerful moves, the most life-changing shifts, they happen in silence. They happen when no one's watching. They happen when you're so focused on your next chapter that you forget to narrate the old one. And let's be real, the more time you spend explaining yourself, the less time you're actually building yourself. Growth takes energy, focus, consistency. You can't afford to keep stopping your progress to explain it to people who aren't even on the same path. Some people will never understand your journey, and that's okay. It wasn't meant for them. Keep walking anyway. You don't need applause. You need alignment. You don't need permission. You need self-trust. The people who truly see you, who truly get it, they won't need explanations. They'll just cheer. Quietly or loudly, they'll support you. And the ones who don't, let them wonder, let them gossip, let them talk, because while they're talking, you're evolving. While they're questioning, you're growing. While they're waiting for you to explain, you're already 10 steps ahead, building a life that speaks for itself. Most people don't get what they want in life, not because they're not capable, not because they're not smart enough or talented enough, but because they're distracted, constantly, endlessly, scrolling, comparing, bouncing from one thing to the next, multitasking themselves into burnout, and then they wonder why they're confused, anxious, lost. Let me break it down for you. If your mind is everywhere, your life will be nowhere. Focus is the secret sauce. It's not flashy, it's not sexy, but it's the one thing that separates people who talk about change from people who actually create it. When you focus, really focus, you cut through the noise. You stop reacting to life and start directing it. You get clear on what matters, and just as importantly, you get ruthless about what doesn't. But let's get real. Staying focused today, it's a battle. You've got 1,000 things screaming for your attention. Notifications, opinions, news, drama, updates. It's a nonstop flood of things pulling you away from yourself. And if you're not intentional, if you're not disciplined, you'll get swept right into it. That's what distractions do. They create chaos, not just on your screen, but in your mind. They chip away at your clarity. One scroll turns into 10 minutes. One conversation turns into an energy drain. One little detour, and suddenly your goals are buried under a pile of things that don't even matter. And here's the part nobody tells you. Every time you break focus, you invite doubt. Doubt creeps in when you stop moving with purpose, when you lose your rhythm, when you pause to look around at what everyone else is doing instead of keeping your eyes on your own damn lane. You start asking questions you never needed to ask. Am I doing this right? Should I be more like them? Is this even working? But guess what? You didn't have those doubts when you were locked in. You had clarity. You had momentum. You had power. Focus clears the fog. It narrows your vision so you can go deeper, not wider. It's not about doing more. It's about doing less, better. You don't need 15 side projects. You need one thing you care about that you show up for every single day with consistency and heart. Focus helps you build. Distraction just keeps you busy. And don't confuse movement with progress. You can be busy all day and still be in the exact same place you were yesterday. Focus is what turns effort into results. It's what takes your ideas and turns them into impact. But it requires discipline. It requires you to say no to things that look fun in the moment but cost you your future. Focus also demands honesty. You've got to get real with yourself. What are you giving your time to that's not giving anything back? Who are you listening to that's feeding your fear instead of fueling your fire? What habits are stealing your clarity right now? You've got to protect your mind like it's sacred ground, because it is. Everything you build starts up there. And if your thoughts are all over the place, your life will reflect that. So get intentional, cut the noise, turn inward, decide what matters, and then build a wall around it. When you focus, things click. The path becomes clearer. You stop second guessing. You stop chasing. You stop getting distracted by things that don't align with where you're going. Because when you know what you want and you give it your full attention, life starts moving differently. You start moving differently. That's the power of focus. One of the biggest lessons you'll ever learn is this: access to you is a privilege, not a right. Just because someone wants your time, your attention, your energy, it doesn't mean they're entitled to it. And the moment you start treating your presence like it's valuable, like it's sacred, is the moment your life starts to shift. Too many people walk around wide open, letting anyone in, answering every text, showing up for everyone else before they even check in with themselves, saying yes out of guilt, entertaining people out of obligation. And for what? Approval? Acceptance? Let me tell you, trying to be everything to everyone will leave you empty, resentful, and exhausted. You are not here to be available to every person who demands a piece of you. You're not here to be a convenience. You're not here to be on call for people who drain you, disrespect you, or only show up when they need something. That version of you, that version that overextends, over-explains, over-delivers just to feel worthy, it's time to retire them. Your peace, your energy, your time, it's currency. Start spending it wisely. Ask yourself, who actually adds value to my life? Who respects my boundaries? Who shows up for me without expecting me to shrink or apologize for my growth? If someone doesn't fall into that category, why are they getting front row access? You don't need to make a big announcement. You don't need to start cutting people off with dramatic speeches. Just tighten your circle quietly, intentionally. Begin showing up less for people who wouldn't notice if you stopped altogether. Respond slower. Say no faster. Protect your space like it's your home, because it is. And listen, this isn't about ego. It's about self-respect. You're not better than anyone, but you are responsible for you. You've got goals. You've got healing to do. You've got energy to protect. That doesn't mean you isolate yourself. It means you become discerning. Everyone doesn't get to sit at your table just because they asked. Some people can't handle the weight of your presence, and that's okay. There are people out there who only want access to the version of you that keeps them comfortable, the version that stays small, the version that doesn't say no. And when you start changing, when you start leveling up, creating boundaries, honoring yourself, those people will either fall away or try to pull you back. Let them go. Your growth isn't for their comfort. You're allowed to evolve. You're allowed to grow into someone who no longer fits their expectation. And you don't owe anyone an explanation for that. Let your actions speak. Let your peace speak. Let your distance speak. The more you value yourself, the more selective you become. That's not being cold. That's being clear. You realize you don't need a crowd to feel validated. You don't need fake support, fake friends, or constant noise. You need alignment. You need space. You need people who clap for you when you're not in the room. And if you don't have that yet, focus on becoming it for yourself first. Because here's the truth. When you stop giving unlimited access to people who only bring chaos, you create room for clarity, peace, purpose. The right people won't demand access, they'll earn it, and they'll honor it. The rest, let them knock on the closed door. You've got better things to build on the other side. There's something people don't talk about enough: what real growth actually looks like. It's not glamorous. It's not loud. It's not something you post about with cute captions and highlight reels. It's quiet. It's uncomfortable. It's you, sitting with yourself, getting honest, getting real, and doing the damn work. Alone. See, we've been conditioned to believe that progress needs an audience, that healing and success have to be shared in real time, that you've got to let the world in on every step, every update, every win. But that's not where the shift happens. That's not where you break through. The real change, the transformation that sticks, it happens in solitude. Solitude isn't loneliness, it's clarity. It's space. It's you disconnecting from the noise so you can reconnect with you. Because let's face it, life is loud. People are loud, opinions are loud, and if you're not careful, you'll drown in all of it. You'll lose your voice trying to live by someone else's standards. You'll start chasing things that don't even belong to your purpose. But when you pull back, when you get quiet and start turning inward, things begin to shift. You start to notice the patterns. You start to hear your intuition again. You begin to separate what's real from what's just distraction. And that's when the work begins. That's where you start to rebuild. And let me be clear, it's not always pretty. Solitude forces you to face the stuff you've been avoiding, the habits, the pain, the limiting beliefs, the excuses. It strips away the noise and leaves you with the truth. That's why most people avoid it, because solitude is where accountability lives. It's where growth asks, are you ready to let go of what's been holding you back? And if you are, that's where your power returns. In solitude, you realize you don't need the approval. You don't need the applause. You don't need to be understood by everyone. You just need to understand yourself. That's where confidence comes from. Not from likes or praise, but from the deep, unshakable knowing that you are becoming who you were always meant to be. And guess what? Growth can't always be shared. Sometimes people won't even recognize you when you come back. Because while they were looking for the old you, you were creating a new one in silence. That's okay. Let them be confused. You don't owe them an explanation. Let your life show them the greatness will always be there. People will always have something to say. The world will always try to pull your focus. But if you can learn to honor your solitude, to protect it, to use it, to grow inside it, you become unshakable. You stop needing the world to validate your journey. You stop chasing empty noise and start building solid ground. So if you're in a season where things feel quiet, maybe even isolating, embrace it. That's the cocoon. That's where the evolution happens. You're not falling behind. You're not being forgotten. You're being refined. The silence isn't punishment. It's preparation. And when you come out on the other side, you won't need to tell people you've changed. They'll feel it. They'll see it. They'll wonder how you did it. But they won't understand, because the most powerful transformations don't make noise while they're happening. They make impact when they're done. We've been taught that silence is passive, that if you're not speaking up, reacting, clapping back, or proving your point, you're weak. But let me tell you something most people miss. Silence isn't weakness. Silence is discipline. It's emotional intelligence. It's power that's been trained, tamed, and mastered. Because anyone can react, anyone can yell, anyone can lose control. But it takes serious strength to choose silence when chaos is begging for your attention. Silence isn't about backing down. It's about rising above. You don't need to insert yourself into every battle. You don't need to defend yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You don't need to waste your energy on noise that doesn't match your frequency. That's not peacekeeping. That's strategy. When you stop responding to every little thing, you take your power back, because every time you react, you're giving something your energy, your attention, your focus, and not everything or everyone deserves that access. Silence is how you protect your inner world. It's how you hold your ground without losing your center. Think about it. How many times have you explained yourself to someone who already made up their mind? How many times have you argued with someone who wasn't listening, just waiting to talk? How many times have you left a conversation feeling more drained than when you walked in? That's what happens when you trade peace for the illusion of being heard. Not everyone's ready to receive you, and that's not your problem. Your silence isn't giving up, it's growing up. It's saying, I don't have to prove my worth. I don't need your validation. I know who I am. And that level of self-assurance, that's what scares people. Because the world expects you to react. The world feeds off drama. But when you stay calm, composed, grounded, that's power most people can't understand. And silence doesn't mean you're not feeling things. It doesn't mean you're weak or avoiding. It means you've chosen to process before you respond, to think before you speak, to observe before you act. That's wisdom. That's how you avoid damage, regret, and emotional hangovers. That's how you stay in control, not just of the moment, but of your direction. There's also something beautiful about not giving people access to your inner world. Not everyone deserves to know what you're thinking. Not everyone deserves your explanations, your feelings, your perspective. Silence creates boundaries. It says, you don't get to go there. And when you move like that, you start attracting different energy, calmer, more respectful, more aligned. Silence also gives you space to hear yourself, to trust your instincts, to tune into your own voice instead of being pulled in 10 different directions by opinions that don't serve you. You become more intentional, more intuitive. You start moving smarter, not louder. Let them wonder, let them assume, let them talk. You don't need to correct every rumor, fix every narrative, or prove every point. The truth has a way of revealing itself without your help, and when it does, your silence will echo louder than any defense ever could. You want to build real power? Learn to be unbothered. Learn to keep your peace in rooms where chaos is currency. Learn to hold your silence like a weapon, not to hurt, but to protect. Because silence isn't weakness. It's the strongest move in the game when you know who you are and where you're going.